Everyone, welcome to tonight's council meeting. It's March the 2nd, 2021. Happy March and congratulations and kudos to all of us in Santa Clara County who has really helped to bring COVID cases down, and we're now at the red tier. So great job, everyone. But remember to keep our masks on, keep yourself socially distanced. And when it's your turn, please consider getting your vaccination so that we can continue to reap the benefits of easing restrictions. And hopefully we will be able to meet and convene in person relatively soon. With that, Ms. Neese, if you wouldn't mind doing roll call.
Thank you and good evening. Councilmember Risto.
Here.
Councilmember Hudes.
Here.
Councilmember Badami.
Here.
Vice Mayor Rennie.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Syak.
Here. Thank you, everyone. And if we could, before we go into council manager matters, we do have two presentations tonight. I think overall the theme of tonight's meeting is we're going to talk about community health and what we can do to help one another. And I'm so pleased that tonight we get to recognize efforts of the CERT team and special recognition to two people within our CERT team. And for those that do not know CERT, oh boy, this is going to test me. Community Emergency Response Teams. I'm getting a nod. Some of the council members have been CERT certified, but as always within our town, we have special heroes that deserve special recognition. And tonight we get to recognize Scott and Lorraine Hepworth. They were awarded the 2020 Mick McDonald Volunteer of the Year by the Santa Clara County Emergency Managers Association. And you see on the screen what those recognitions look like. The award was presented to a volunteer, and in this case, two volunteers who have provided exceptional service in strengthening the jurisdiction's whole community emergency preparedness. This award is named in honor of retired Battalion Chief George Mick McDonald, who served as a firefighter in Palo Alto for 33 years. Because of his dedication and commitment to serving the community, he initiated the Volunteer Recognition Luncheon to be hosted by the Santa Clara County Emergency Managers Association. Unfortunately, we're not doing that at this time, but the Emergency Managers Association renamed the Volunteer Recognition Luncheon to the Mick McDonald Volunteer of the Year Award to honor those volunteers who also exemplify Mick's dedication and commitment to their community. As CERT leads, Scott and Lorraine have organized a new incident command post for their neighborhood. It's adjacent to St. Mary's and it's fabulous. And it created a critical role card for each position within the neighborhood incident command post. They share their passion for a resilient community by educating their neighborhoods about disaster preparedness and the CERT program. And I, for one, feel so much better and can sleep better knowing that these two are wonderful citizens within our town. So kudos and many, many thanks to Scott and Lorraine Hepworth for all that you do for Los Gatos. Would you guys like to say anything?
We are pleased to have this experience. We really are enjoying the teamwork of CERT and getting involved with the town more. And we love working with the police department. They're all just great people, and everyone's interested in doing something. And we're just part of a big team. It's just a lot of fun. And a slow, gradual process, but we are making a little progress here and there.
Wonderful. Lorraine?
Well, thank you for the recognition. We feel like many others could have received this award, but we are sincerely interested in helping the CERT program in the town of Los Gatos succeed, and we're hoping to recruit more people and get involved with our neighborhoods. And I think we're starting to see some momentum. It's going to take a lot of work yet, and but we're pleased to be part of your community, and we'll do our best to honor that.
Well, you certainly have already done that. And for those that are watching tonight, if you want to hang out with Lorraine and Scott Hepworth and be part of our CERT program, we will be holding virtual neighborhood emergency preparedness meetings throughout the town and the city of Montecito. We held one on February 24th, so we are conducting them virtually still. CERT will take part in upcoming emergency volunteer center training with the goal of eventually incorporating DART, which is another one of our volunteer services, into the training to enhance volunteer collaboration in the event of an emergency. And what CERT teaches us, it's not if, it's always when. No? And so again, community preparedness. So CERT will continue engaging in Red Cross shelter training, which will allow them to open an emergency Red Cross shelter within 72 hours of activation. CERT plans to again coordinate with local emergency response agencies and the neighborhood of Foster Road to conduct another fire evacuation drill within the Foster Road neighborhood. So real life activities that can engage your skills now. Continued efforts towards CERT recruitment. Currently, we're not doing the academies, but we are trying to do things virtually. So again, if anyone is interested, please reach out to the town. And we are adding one more emergency NICP. And I'm going to test both Scott and Lorraine. What does NICP stand for?
Well, it's Neighborhood Incident Command Post. We have been abbreviating it without the N, just saying ICP.
They're very good. And so I believe we are planning to add one in the Vasona neighborhood, refurbish and relocate the one in the Rinconada neighborhood. And the CERT trailer will undergo some refurbishment and organization to make it more viable to be a mobile incident command post. So as you see, we are doing great work in the event of an emergency. And for all of those that are concerned about property crime, CERT will continue partnering and doing outreach to neighborhood watch groups to provide education and information. Ultimately, all of these different organizations, we're all working towards a more resilient community. And CERT, we've been engaging in leadership development from within and within our community. And who knows, maybe we can recognize the next Scott and Lorraine Hepworth at a next meeting.
That would be
That'd
great.
be good.
So again, if anyone is interested, please reach out to anyone within the town and we will direct you to the appropriate people. Thank you again, Scott and Lorraine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that is a good segue into March, which is National Red Cross Month. And Mr. Andrews, if we can show our proclamation for the American Red Cross. Okay. And so for almost, what we've seen here, for almost 80 years, the president has proclaimed March as Red Cross Month for all of the reasons that we have just discussed about emergency response and being prepared. We know that the Red Cross is always there in case of emergencies. With last year's hurricanes and wildfires across the country, wildfires, we know specifically in our own local area, we know that the Red Cross is always available to be of assistance to all of us. And so tonight we get to honor and recognize two individuals within our town, and let's see if they've been promoted so we can see them as well. Let's see.
Mayor, Mr. Giordano has not joined the meeting yet, but Mr. Wells has been promoted.
Okay.
With the Red Cross.
Okay, well, Mr. Wells, on behalf of the Red Cross, we just want to thank you and all of your volunteers for all that you do, not only for the town of Los Gatos, but for the entire region, for the state, and for the country. And so on behalf of the town of Los Gatos, we would also like to recognize March as National Red Cross Month.
Great, thank you, Mayor Sayak. And just for clarity, I'm not being recognized. I'm a local board member of the Silicon Valley chapter, here to recognize Dueno Giordano, who couldn't make it, unfortunately, tonight, but is a local resident, and he works in our life safety and asset protection, which basically means he works in the shelters to keep them safe. So he keeps out anything that's untoward going on in the shelter and make sure that the clients are nice and safe, and that the Red Cross is able to perform their their duties safely. So thank you, Dueno, in your absence, and we'll make sure that he gets to see the recording of this.
Absolutely. And please let him know that when we see him around town, for many of us, we recognize him because he's also one of our retired sworn personnel. And so it's great that we get to see him continue his work with your organization. So Mr. Wells, thank you.
Absolutely. And we work so well with the CERT people that you just recognized. So a nice tandem.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all the work that you're doing on behalf of the town. And it's wonderful that we're seeing so many more residents engaged and ready to be prepared when that emergency does occur. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And so now, council members, we move to council and manager matters. And fortunately, there are no immediate emergencies that we need to report on, but Councilmember Hudis and Badami, Risto, and Vice Mayor, we still continue the work that we do. Councilmember Hudis, would you like to start?
Sure. I attended a couple of meetings. One was the CERT neighborhood meeting. That was a very good emergency preparation session that was put on by the Hepworths and the town. So thank you for that. And then just one other meeting, since it's only been, I think, a week since we last reported, but I did have the opportunity to attend a housing policy briefing that was put on by let me get the name right, the Silicon Valley Leadership Group and Silicon Valley at Home. And it was a pretty comprehensive discussion about where the housing needs and solutions are going in Silicon Valley. And I think those are the only two meetings that I had since our last one.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with the emergency practice, and I think Matthew was involved in this also. We didn't mention it. On February 20th, I participated in a ham radio exercise where I was at our Los Gatos Town Emergency Operating Center, where I received the disaster reports that were relayed in by the GMRS radios or the ham radios. What we did was people were inserting at these NICPs that we just recognized Scott and Lorraine for, inserting in simulated emergencies, which would then be radioed back to the emergency operating center. So I was one of the people recording those at the EOC. On 2/17, I attended a homeless roundtable by the League of Cities. There was a couple cities that presented what they were doing for homelessness, but I did not really hear anything that innovative compared to what we do in Santa Clara County. On 2/17, I attended the Bay Area Air Quality Management Legislative Committee. We reviewed the state budget for bills such as AB 617. These are bills that require things to happen, and then they also have to provide budget for it. AB 617 was signed into law with the cap and trade extension bill, AB 398, to ensure our most burdened communities in the state receive the health benefits promised by cap and trade. The Air District plays a key role in this implementation, but requires significant funds to implement the program. The FY 2021 budget from the state only had money to cover staffing, which was good so that we could have continuity of staffing, but it did not have any money for the grants or incentives that are part of the programs that go on with AB 617. The proposed FY 21-22 budget continues to have money for staffing, good thing, but also includes $145 million for incentives and $10 million for community grants. The legislative committee also talked a little bit about opposition to 3 bills that were related to smog check. They were things like moving newer model cars into the historic exempt car category where they wouldn't have to do smog checks anymore. On 2/25, the Bay Area Air Quality Management District Mobile Source Committee also met, which I'm on also. And we approved the use of the TFCA funds. These are Transportation for Clean Air funds for replacement of diesel engine buses and ag equipment that exceeded the $100,000 limit that some of the other programs provide money for. So these were additional funds to help them get through what it costs. The TFCA fund is a $4 surcharge on motor vehicles that are used for these kinds of things. There's 4 other funds that help to get these diesel engine kinds of things off the roads with that limit of the 100,000. One of them is called the Carl Moyer program, and another one is a mobile source incentive fund. And there's 2 others, but I didn't want to get into all the details. So on 2/18, moving on, 2/18, I attended the VTA's community discussion for transit-oriented development in Gilroy at the Caltrain station there. So I listened in on that. On 2/19, the VTA board had a workshop that focused on the next generation of high-capacity transit research. In other words, replacing light rail or modifications to the existing light rail with new technology that will hopefully allow us to operate it cheaper and maybe faster and better. On 2/23 and 24, I attended the joint venture Silicon Valley State of the Valley presentation that they do every year. The big takeaways I'd say I got with that is this tale of 2 economies, that in our valley, tech and venture capital we had record years in terms of expansion and investments made and so forth. While on the other hand, you have people that can't not even afford to pay their rents. That's it for me.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Rennie. Councilmember Risto?
Thank you. Last week I attended the 110 Wood Road EIR scoping meeting. And so for any residents listening, the Meadows will be requesting to completely rebuild the facility. And so this was a meeting where people could give input on what they like to see considered in the environmental impact report. I believe there's still time to write into the town if you missed that meeting and have any suggestions. Sorry. I attended a Sierra Club local chapter meeting that was a discussion of the impacts of light pollution on nature and actually on human beings, what it does, what light leakage and light pollution does, with suggestions for what can be done with parking lot lighting, ambient lighting, other issues. And it was not only really informative and sobering, it has led me to, pay attention to other issues. So the city of San Jose has turned down, decided not to go forward with electronic billboards. I don't think that'll be an issue in Los Gatos, but the other thing that'll be interesting is later this month, the city of Cupertino is considering a dark skies initiative. And so I will be following that to see if there's any application to Los Gatos. Along with Councilmember Hughes, I attended the newly elected officials housing policy briefing that the Silicon Valley Leadership Group put on. And tying in with the information, with this being Red Cross Month, I would like to encourage everybody who has become sick with COVID, who's had COVID, as I did in December, to go ahead and take the opportunity. If you've recovered like I have, you can donate your convalescent plasma at the Red Cross. And it's a really easy process. You get your red cells back. You feel great right afterward. You're full of energy, and you can do it once a week. And so my husband and I have donated plasma, and we'll be doing it again. And I encourage anybody who has that opportunity to do so. It could keep somebody from getting really sick. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Risto. And Councilmember Badami?
Thank you, Mayor. On February 18th, I met with the General Update Advisory Committee along with Councilmember Risto. We began discussion on the community design element and will continue the conversation on Thursday night. We're encouraging members of the public to attend and we welcome their input. I've also had conversations with a few town residents regarding community and economic vitality relating to our strategic priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Badami. Since we all last met, the policy committee has also met, and Councilmember Risto is the chair of the policy committee this year. And we did discuss, we looked at the enabling resolution, not only for the policy committee, but looked at how we can help strengthen and support our existing commissions. And tonight we will be hearing from our Community Health and Senior Services Commission, and we hope to continue those conversations with all of them. Things that I do want to just highlight for things bringing forward. On March 11, the Cities Association meeting has invited DA Jeff Rosen to come speak to elected officials about his recent PSAs and efforts to work against hate crimes. There is an increase in Asian American hate crime that's occurring not only in our Bay Area, but nationally, and the work that he and his team are doing to combat that. In that regard, I also attended Silicon Valley Leadership Group's Diversity Forward Summit, and Town Manager Pravetti and I are discussing how to, all the different best practices that are happening among our neighboring cities and what we can do to bring all of this information in a cohesive package to all of you on March 16th, when we bring back a lot of the original discussions that we had around police reforms and how to reimagine the work that we're doing moving forward. In addition, on March 19, Cal City's Peninsula Division is hosting a forum where we're going to have Senator Cortese, Senator Lee, and Assemblymember Rivas come and speak about their legislative priorities. And so if you have not received that invitation and that registration, please reach out to either myself or Jeanette. And finally, I did want to highlight that we did have a grand opening for another locally owned business, Do Cranes, a local chocolate shop, opened in the Downing Center. And so another optimistic sign that things are moving forward for our town. So thank you. Town Manager.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Just a couple of announcements. We are continuing our partnership with free COVID testing. And the date in March is March 15th. So put that on your calendar. About a week beforehand, you can make a reservation. So that way you know exactly when your appointment is scheduled. So please sign up. I know we are encouraging people to get vaccinated as well, but it's still a good idea to test. We really need to get those tests continuing. And then we are recruiting for our Youth Commission. Applications are due on April 30th by 4 p.m. For more information, please visit our clerk website. Thank you.
Thank you. And so, council members, we have six items on our consent agenda. I look to you to see if there is anything that needs to be pulled. I see no hands. And so for those in attendance, if you would like to pull anything on our consent agenda, these are items that we believe are more administrative in nature and will be approved in one motion. Seeing none, I bring it back to council. And if I could get a motion for approval. Councilmember Hudas, and a second.
I move to approve. Yep.
Great. And Councilmember Risto?
Second, sorry.
Okay. Councilmember Hudas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rennie?
Aye.
Councilmember Risto?
Aye, and I also want to commend staff on the recycled rubber, the reusing the old tires grant for paving the roads. I just think this is a great opportunity for our town and a great way to reuse something that ends up often in landfill. So thank you.
Councilmember Badami?
Yes.
And I also vote yes, and our consent agenda is approved unanimously. Thank you. We now move to verbal communications, and this is an opportunity for those who would like to speak to the council on an item that is not on our agenda. This is informational, where those in the public share items with us, and if necessary, this would go to staff or be agendized at a future meeting. And I see no hands raised. Okay, so now we move to our other business. And as I mentioned earlier, this is really an opportunity. This year, I would like all of our commissions to come forward and have a conversation with the council. It's a great way to gain visibility in the work that they are doing, which is so pivotal and important to the town. It's also an opportunity for the council members to express our gratitude to those that are serving in our commissions. With that, Mr. Andrews, I turn to you.
Thank you, Mayor and Town Council. So I'll be brief with the staff report, and we do have several commissioners in attendance tonight. If there are any other commissioners in attendance, if you could raise your hand so I can make sure that you're renamed as a commissioner. 1 second. Perfect. So it looks like we have 4 of our 6 commissioners in attendance this evening. As I mentioned, I'll be brief, but basically, as far as records indicate, the town has had some form of a commission dedicated to community services since at least 1988. Since that time, the commission has gone through several incarnations, including in 2011, when the commission added the explicit reference and mandate to senior services. Most recently, in May of 2020, the commission reviewed their resolution and saw that there was legacy language related to some prior housing commitments. And then they also kind of noticed that a lot of the grant recipients through the town's annual community grant human services program align with public health. And that was happening at the same time that we started our general plan update. And it became clear that in the general plan update, the public health element was kind of orphaned. Most of the other elements align with one of the many commissions or committees in town, but public health didn't seem to rest anywhere. And so the commission at that point recommended to council, and the council adopted the new resolution. And that's when the commission became the Public Health and Senior Services Commission. So with that, I believe Commissioner Rossman, our chair, if it's okay with you, Mayor, would like to just give a few opening comments about the goals that were provided with the staff report.
Absolutely. Welcome, Chair Rossman. And if at some time during your presentation, if we could have all of the commissioners turn on their video and introduce who is present with us, that would be wonderful. Thank you. But I turn to you, Chair Rossman.
Okay, you're not waiting for the rest of the commissioners to indicate their presence.
Actually, if you would like, I wasn't sure if you were going to introduce any of them now or later, so I defer to you.
I didn't plan to introduce them. I've been chair of this commission for 15 months. Taking over from Maureen Heath. And we currently have 5 other commission members, one of whom is designated from the Youth Commission. So I see Commissioner Lydia Norcia, I see Jeff Bloom. So Lydia, Lydia is our longest serving commissioner. She's been on the commission for, you tell us, Lydia, 5 or 6 years.
I think that means I'm very old. Thank you, George. It's been a pleasure to be on this commission, and I am honored to be the longest member on it. I think we've accomplished a great deal in helping our community. Recently, we decided to focus on health. And that is something that we're developing right now. I'm sure that George and all the commissioners have something to say, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time. One of the concerns that I would like to bring up is last year we had a really large increase in requests for grants. And I was very amazed at that. And I'm concerned how many we're going to get this year, especially with the COVID. And I believe that that is because our goals are very varied from children to seniors. And that's something that I would really like the commission and the council to be aware of. Thank you. It's an honor to be on the commission and to live in Los Gatos.
Thank you, Commissioner Norcia.
So we can go to our other two commissioners, or I can provide an initial statement about our 2021 goals, which are included as part of the agenda packet. What would you like to do, Mayor?
Why don't we do this, Commissioner Blumen, Commissioner Ramil, if it's okay with you? Why don't you introduce your goals so that we don't get too off track? But and then Commissioner Blum and Ramil, if we can hear from you afterwards and hear introductions from you as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So first of all, let me thank you on behalf of the commission for scheduling this study session. As Arne pointed out, our role is to advise the town council on the public health and senior service needs of the residents of Los Gatos. The town's general plan, especially the one that's been in place through 2020, incorporates a long list of policies to address the needs of seniors. And the commission has a long history, as Lydia could speak to, of advocating, proposing, initiating, and monitoring programs that advance those policies. The town's recognition as an age-friendly city is evidence of that. On the public health front, though, the commission has not been as effective because the general plan's policies relied on other agencies to foster residents' health and well-being. The amended resolution gave the commission a new mandate to expand its programmatic activities in this area. So we are beginning the development of action plans to address those needs. The commission's goals for this year, which we'll go over and which were attached to the agenda, reflect the breadth, as Lydia just pointed out, of our proposed activities. Our main areas, major areas of focus will be informing, educating, and empowering Los Gatos about critical public health issues. And secondly, to continue to advance the goals of the Los Gatos Age-Friendly Initiative and respond to the recent addition of engaging seniors as a strategic priority for the town. We are also determined to significantly increase the visibility of the commission so that the Los Gatos community knows who we are and what resources we can provide. I'd like to just report on a few of our recent activities. First, learning and incorporating best practices from other communities. We had extensive interviews with Los Altos Hills, Saratoga, and Campbell. It's notable that all these cities have much higher senior citizen participation in recreation services, and their marketing and client engagement programs are much more robust and effective than ours. Second, we've initiated an outreach to local healthcare providers, interviews with El Camino, with Cassie, with Good Samaritan, to organize a health resources fair and coordinate messaging around vaccine acceptance. Finally, there's an observation that developed in conversations that I had with Matthew over the past few weeks about two different perspectives on the seniors of Los Gatos. View one is that there are many isolated, asset-rich, cash-poor seniors who need basic services: meals, transportation, socialization, emergency preparedness. View two is that many seniors are self-sufficient, are interested in enhanced services, and are willing to give their time and talent in the service of others. We have to work more effectively as a commission at both ends of this spectrum. I also call your attention to a statement to the Los Gatos Town Council, which was distributed just today from Tom Pickrell, who is the former chair of this commission and is the coordinator of the service providers. He's a real force in our community, and he's also, along with our Commissioner Norcia, on the Santa Clara County Area Agency on Aging and their advisory council. So they've had a significant presence in shaping the Santa Clara County directions. I want you to call your attention to a few remarks that Tom made, in case you haven't had a chance to read them. He thanks the council for adding senior issues to the priorities. It's his opinion that a long view study of how the town can improve the environment for seniors is needed. He believes that such a study will find structural changes required for progress. So he talks about Los Gatos Saratoga Recreation and their role in the last dozen years, and questions whether it serves seniors well now. The commission, as he said, recently ran a benchmarking activity, which I reported at the last meeting of the Los Gatos service providers. And there are stark differences between what we do and the way in which the town is engaged in senior affairs compared to other communities. The same could be said for public health services. So there's a lot of this elements that we're hoping we as a commission can wrestle with, but also engage the town council and other institutions within the town to advance both of these critical needs in the town.
Thank you, Chair Rossman. And Commissioner Blum and Commissioner Rommel, would you like to introduce yourselves before we open it up for questions and then public comment?
Sure. I guess I'll introduce myself. I've been on the commission for about a year. Moved to Los Gatos in November of 2019 after having lived in Palo Alto for many years. And in Palo Alto, I was on the Human Relations Commission for about 6 years, and I was a chair a number of the years that I served. What I learned from being on that commission is that it's really critical to get the public, make the public aware of who we are and what we do, and to have a bully pulpit, so to speak. So that's been one of my goals since being on the current commission here in Los Gatos. To that end, I've written a letter that is to be published if it hasn't been published. Starting to give talks. For example, I'm giving a talk to the Rotary in a couple of weeks on who we are and what we do. So that's, as George indicated, that's one piece of what we do. My big concern is that we have so much on our plate that we're supposed to deal with under our mandate. And I see the senior issues being critically important. So many people in our community are elderly, a large part of the population in Los Gatos. And so I I am concerned about the extent of the resources we have and the low profile we have. And maybe I'm just sensitive about it after having been on the Human Relations Commission in Palo Alto and experiencing the low profile we had there, despite my best efforts. Senior related issues are critically important, and I'm concerned about, again, the resources we have and the lack of knowledge that the community has about us and what we do. We need help. And so I'm hoping that can be one of the issues we discuss this evening. One other concern I have, I guess I should put it out there, is I'm really concerned that we can't really familiarize ourselves and one another with who we are and what we do in one study session. So I don't know if there's a mechanism for us to engage more with the town council about what we do and about these senior related issues, but I welcome the opportunity to explore that issue as well. And I apologize for going on and on and on, but there's a lot on my mind about the commission and about next steps with our commission. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is the time to bring your concerns and your ideas, and I'm hoping that we can engage in a meaningful conversation and figure out how to address these issues. So, Commissioner Rommel, and am I pronouncing that correctly, first of all? And you're still on mute, huh?
Now I am on mute. Sorry, sorry about it. I was listening to everybody. So this is my third year on the committee. Prior to that, I was working volunteer with Victim Service Unit together with Mary Badham. And Captain Forrester organized this program, and I was there from the very beginning. And my primarily job on that committee was to work with identity theft. Because I was I'm an ex-banker, so I was able to guide seniors through. A lot of clients that were referred to me were seniors that needed help with various problems, and I started basically adopted many of them, visited them, and found out there is a tremendous need for seniors in the community. So when the position became available, I applied immediately to be on this committee. And this year, we're working extremely hard, not only on grants that we were concentrating before, but we have a lot of broad issues that previous commissioners discussed, and I'm not going to repeat, but it's very important for us to reach out more to the community. I'm a real estate broker, and I walk in the neighborhood a lot. And many seniors approaching me, what do we do? We need a smaller place, but we can't afford. We do not want to leave Los Gatos. We want to stay because our kids are here. But where do we go? So this is a subject that is very important, that it's very dear to me, to help our seniors somehow that are not necessarily looking for an affordable housing. They worked all their lives, they have some savings, but they cannot afford, to purchase anything in Los Gatos, something smaller. That would be great if we could develop something for seniors, a single person or a couple that could live to in a small housing that it's reasonably affordable. At the same time, the homes that they have will become available to younger, families with children. So this is an issue that I really want to concentrate on, and that we need help in our city with that.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of you for joining us today and for your service on the commission. I'm going to go to council members for initial questions, and then I'm going to go to the members and the public who wish to speak on this item. Vice Mayor Rennie?
Thank you, Mayor. So I've been trying to figure out in my mind how to ask this question. So what I'm hearing is, from the letter and so forth, we haven't had very great engagement by seniors in Los Gatos compared to other cities. And there's suggestions that we need some structural changes on how we implement the whole idea of a senior program in Los Gatos. And when you were talking about these things, and I realize the commission can't fix the structural problems that needs to be done at the staff and council level kinds of things, but I was still trying to tie the goals you have written back to what you were saying, and I was struggling a little bit with it. And maybe the question is, are these goals written to address the status quo? This is what you would do if we had a status quo? Or are these goals supposed to try to help the town and the staff and the council move towards a change in how we do this?
And I can start off, and then I'm sure the others will jump in. It was very important to the commissioners that they created goals that they thought were actionable. And so to that point, they're working within the framework they currently have, but they did want to make sure that whatever they put on paper was something that they thought they were capable of achieving as a group of volunteers within the current framework.
If I could comment on a number of these goals are about learning. So when we talked about taking on public health, we don't have any physicians on our staff, and yet our taking on of that goal preceded the pandemic. And we were interested in behavioral, mental health, abuse, suicide, and a lot of these came up in the context of the Los Gatos service providers, where service providers talked about the clients they have and the difficulties they have dealing with them. It wasn't just seniors, it was abused women, it was suicidal teenagers. Mariko, the mayor, can speak to this because of her deep involvement with Cassie. So our goal number one was to get our arms around these public health issues and bring them forward to the town council, to the residents of Los Gatos, so they can see the impact that this stressful environment is having on citizens. So that was the rationale behind goal one, which was reach out, find out what's going on, help disseminate information the way Commissioner Blum talked about, talking about what's going on and the services that are available and how to reach them. And so when it came just to the COVID vaccine, the town stepped up, did testing. When we ran a drive-through resource fair in October with the help of Sassy and Saratoga, we had almost 200 cars come through, exploring the various resources that the town and the surrounding service entities could provide. El Camino was there, the fire department was there, the police department was there. We talked about care, which was the way in which citizens that need to be contacted on a daily basis to make sure that they're okay. So programs of this sort are examples of how we act after we find out what can be most effective in engaging the Los Gatos residents.
And Mayor, I would just like to acknowledge that Commissioner Conrad has now joined us. So we currently have 5 of our 6 commissioners in attendance.
Welcome, Commissioner Conrad.
I apologize for fumbling around with Zoom too long.
Oh, no worries, no worries. At this point, we've listened to the agenda, to the work plan goals. Council members are asking some preliminary questions, and then we're going to open it up to the public for comments. Vice Mayor Rennie, does that answer your question?
It starts to. I don't want to turn it into a discussion at this point, so
Okay.
I'll stop there.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Hudas.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the work that this commission is doing. It's a very broad purview, and so I understand that it's difficult to prioritize. And so having the goals that the commission has proposed, I think, is really helpful. I would sort of complicate life a little bit more by saying that in addition to putting senior services as a strategic priority for this year, and I'll want to come back to that maybe later after we've heard more from the public, we also put diversity, equity, and inclusion as a strategic priority. And there was a lot of discussion about how to achieve that. And one of the primary mechanisms is to ask our existing commissions and committees to think about how they can further diversity, equity, and inclusion in town through the current purview of their and scope of their commission. So this is just the beginning of the year, so I don't want to put anyone on the spot in terms of having the answer for it, but I wonder if there's any reactions of the commission to how they might engage in that goal of the town of promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And Commissioner Conrad, is your hand up to answer the question?
Yeah, I had a couple thoughts relative to the services to seniors, and seniors are diversity, and I think diversity is just good public relations. But I view the services as being quite good in the community, but we can make them better. And as a volunteer coordinator for the Rotary, I see people eager to volunteer, including our high school affiliates, and I'm sure this is true of other service clubs. So we just need to get with the senior community, if that's a priority, and find out what they need. And we have students over at Lee High School that are looking for things to do to help seniors. These are our little interact clubs. And as I say, other clubs have similar things. So I just see a tremendous opportunity I'm the volunteer coordinator for the Rotary Noon, and a tremendous opportunity to match what's needed in the community to the many volunteers that we can get.
Thank you.
There is a fundamental challenge here, and I think the commission can speak to this. We've had openings on our commission, which is a broadly based and as a wide charter, and we've had tremendous difficulty filling those volunteer roles. So you just shouldn't believe that people are ready to volunteer and put in the time and energy that the existing commissioners are willing to put in, because once we try to complete the recruiting process, we find out that people really don't want to spend the time and energy doing it. So it's not as easy as my fellow commissioner believes it will be.
Councilmember Badami?
Well, that being said, I also would like to take the opportunity to thank all the commissioners for all the hard work that they do. And I'd also like to give a shout out to Commissioner Laura, who on the Victim Services Unit, I don't think she was thanked enough for the time and effort that she gave to all the seniors who were targeted with identity theft. That being said, I also wanted to point out a couple of other things, and that being the move down seniors, not necessarily looking for affordability with a unit, but we're looking at the General Plan Update Committee with 1,000 square feet and under, which would make it more affordable because they're smaller in size for these move down seniors. So I just wanted to point that out in case we can get some more engagement from seniors and others with the General Plan Update Advisory Committee, and point that out, that that's something that we are targeting. As well, I'm going to be looking at how we can improve our support services for seniors without having a significant price tag to it, because we are still working with the budget, but we really do understand and feel the need to help our seniors.
Thank you, Council Member. Commissioner Garcia.
Yes, I'd like to address two issues. One, DeConrad mentioned reaching out to seniors. I was one of the commissioners that contacted Los Altos to see how their programs were. I was very impressed with the cooperation and collaboration between their commission and the recreation departments. They were able to share 1,500 emails and contacts to reach out to a senior population. And through that, they received 20 or 30 seniors that wanted to receive wellness calls. We don't have that kind of cooperation, and I'd like to see that developed in our community, because I think it would really be helpful for seniors and for our community. In addition, I think it was Laura that mentioned the lack of senior communities. I think a very good example of one is where the Meadows have these units that used to be governed by a religious association, and they got purchased over, and it's on Dave's Avenue. And it's a beautiful community with small units that the Meadows runs. A lot of people don't know that. And that's the type of thing that I think we need to really be looking into. One of the problems we have is lack of land. Thank you.
Thank you, for sure. Councilmember Risto.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I want to thank all of you. I've served on a number of commissions, and I know how hard it is to hone down on priorities that can be accomplished and feel like you can make progress, especially, my guess is based on the work that you're doing, similar to some of the commissions I've been on, you do a lot of work in between meetings. And it can be really hard to find commissioners willing to put in that kind of work. I'm wondering a couple things. One, first of all, you have a really broad base. I mean, community, health, and senior services. And I think in the community, a lot of people view it as the Senior Services Commission, and it's harder to get young people to even apply to that commission. The other thing that I've experienced is when I'm trying to recruit for a variety of commissions, it's hard to personally recruit outside your own circle. So if you've got any suggestions or requests of how we can help recruit for your commission, because it does break my heart when I know there are people that want to be involved and we have open seats on a commission where we have work that needs to be done, we have a willing commission, and we need more people involved, and how we can get that word out. So what I'm really appreciating about this discussion is I'm hearing the kind of work you're doing and the challenges you're facing, and you are bringing to the council what needs to be brought out to the community and ways that you need support to forward your priorities.
Well, when we interviewed, as Lydia said, other towns, we discovered that they had a much larger percentage of participation of the seniors as members of the senior activities in that town. In Saratoga, for example, senior membership is 2,000 out of a population of 31,000, which is over 6%. And they have 13,000 members on their email lists and circulating their newspaper outlook to them. Los Gatos, on the other hand, it's terrible to say, with 30,000 residents, we have about 350 individuals who are registered as members of Los Gatos Saratoga Rec. So we're under 1%. And that's one of our goals, as Jeff was speaking to earlier. Publicize, get out there, drive more marketing materials, put out more evidence that we have senior services and programs that are active and would benefit the seniors. And as council member Matthew, with his 60 plus program, was trying to drive enhanced services, we have to put out what those services are. We have to find ways through social media, Instagram, whatever we can, to engage the Los Gatos community and get our residents more active in utilizing those services.
Thank you. Thank you. Real quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if members of the public would like to speak to us on this item before we engage in some more discussion and see if we can enhance the conversation. And so first speaker, Heidi of Los Gatos. So Heidi, it says talking permitted, but you're still muted.
Oh, good. I get to start over.
Okay, welcome.
Hello. Thanks. I'm out of breath because I'm walking my dog, but thank you to the commissioners for their service and thanks for letting me speak. I'd like to advocate for the formation of an ad hoc committee to really bring some urgency to the issue of the formulation of a work plan and some priorities moving forward. And in my mind, they come down to 6 priorities: housing, transportation, facilities, programming, services, and opportunities. And there's some subcategories there that I can send you, but I think we need to harness all of the energy that's circulating now around senior services and put together a larger group to get a plan in place. So that's my 2 cents. So thanks for letting me speak.
Of course. Thank you, Heidi. Next speaker is Sassy. Actually, I guess our next speaker is 14083.
I'm not sure if that's me. This is Kathy Molinerich from Live Oak Senior Center.
Welcome. Kathy? Kathy, if you
Hi, am I unmuted?
Oh, okay,
Yes.
There you go.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes,
Main
you
question.
are. Welcome.
Hi. For all of you that don't know me, I'm Kathy Molinerich. I am the director of Live Oak Senior Center in Los Gatos. Have been doing this for almost 4 years now. What I'm learning from, well, the reason I raised my hand is because I've learned a lot in the last year of what our seniors need. And I'd like to share it. I'd like people to ask me questions about well, I'm nervous. So let me just go with this. First of all, Commissioner Rosman and Bloom, my apologies. I didn't know who you were and what the commission was when I started this program. So our lack of communication is key to me. One of the main things I will say that's not happening with our seniors is that we need to reach out to them, but the internet is not the answer. Our average age at Live Oak is 72 to 84. And even though they're seeing their adult children have got them the internet, they have no interest in using it. With Sassy, as they brought over their Outlook, did it out when we deliver meals to, we're averaging about 75 meals a day now, which is big. And we could do more, but getting the word out, and they need it out in hard paper. We may not have to do this for 20 years because I'm a senior, but in 20 years, I will know how to use the internet, but our seniors don't. So my number one thought is get a newsletter out. Maybe we can get the weekly to throw it in their delivery, or we do it on our own. But nobody's going to answer to us via email. That's my answer to that. During COVID, when we first started, we served a small group of people. It was a very intimate, lovely senior center. We had tablecloths and real plates. And it was, the main people we served were for socialization. Very few people came for food, but it was socialization. Now I find with COVID, we have a lot of isolation problems. We have a lot of depression problems. We have people that are scared to get the virus. They don't know how to use the internet. The library is closed. They may not be in connection with their adult children who are busy taking care of their kids. So when this whole shutdown happened, Live Oak, because we're an essential business, stayed open. And I'm probably taking up too much time, but we became the only connection that I know of in Los Gatos where the seniors could get information. And I handed out my cell phone number. That's not what you want to do, but you had to do that. You had to think quick. How do we get this out? Catherine Summers called me and said, we have Feed the Need, we have money coming in, but we don't know who our seniors are. Well, Live Oak had a natural database of 400 seniors. So immediately, while I was sheltering in place, because again, I'm a senior, got a phone tree going, got senior buddies going, got high school students and elementary kids sending birthday cards. We just brainstormed, and within 3 or 4 weeks, we had a plan in action. There's a lot of stuff I learned during this, and I'd love for you guys to pick my brain. I'd love to figure out how we can do something in the immediate while we look at the long term. And I say immediate because when we open the doors, as we are doing, outside dining is happening. It's not happening at Live Oak Senior Center because we are a senior center. And the last thing we can do is promoting seniors getting COVID on our campus, which thank God hasn't happened yet, amazingly.
Kathy, thank you so much.
Seniors are nervous. They're anxious.
May I say something?
They need.
Hello, everyone.
Go.
For some reason, I don't know if it's my feed or Kathy's feed, but you break up occasionally. And so hold on, and I'm sure people will have questions of you. First, I'm going to look to council members. Any questions of Kathy? Council Member Risto.
Yes, thank you so much. In terms of the hundreds of seniors that you're in contact with, Kathy, or that you had in connection with Live Oak, how was that contact maintained? Do you have a newsletter, or was this seniors that were arriving at the facility? And if so, how do you stay in touch until people are vaccinated?
We do not have a newsletter, don't have the manpower, the funds to own. So basically I contacted through social moms with teenagers that would take the time to become a senior buddy. So let's say one mom would take 15, but we had to call through that whole database because some were deceased, some have moved on, but it was a start. And this is why Catherine called, because where do we begin? We have the funds. We have tons of volunteers, Kiwanis Club, Lions, Rotary. Fortunately, everybody there is over 60. So I couldn't ask for help from seniors. Tyler and Roz from Saratoga, they volunteered to deliver meals all over to Westport, to our low-income area. And I was like, great, you're under 60, I can use you. So no, the answer is we don't have a great communication, but we did our best and we need to do more.
Any other questions, Vice Mayor?
So Kathy, do you know, I'm trying to figure out how to ask this. The impression I get is the town has given grants and given money to a few different programs, but I don't feel like there's a central coordination to it. And so really the question for you is, do you feel like there's any coordination, and how do you coordinate with, let's say, the rec center or some of the other programs that might be available to seniors in Los Gatos?
Good question. And I feel we're very siloed. The pandemic has given us the opportunity to figure out all the gaps that we have. So no, we need somebody to coordinate. Don't know who that person is. Somebody's got to volunteer or step up, but we need somebody that has experience, in my opinion, to coordinate this. And I volunteer or wear a different hat, but I jump on the team. So yes, we need someone to pull us all together.
Thank you.
Councilmember Badami?
So I understand the difficulty with seniors and getting on with technology. I even have a little difficulty myself. And I understand that we're somewhat limited with newsprint, but has anybody thought about reaching out to our senior communities? And we do have one that's on my street, the Los Gatos Commons, where you have a whole community of people that are over the age of 55, and most of them are probably in the ages of 70 to 80. And that would be a wealth of seniors that if somebody were to reach out to the HOA, that you could make contact very easily, maybe with just a phone call, because I'm sure there's a lot of people over there that would welcome the help. So that would be something that could be done proactively. And I don't know, Live Oak, if you're still on, if that's something that you had thought of.
No, but I appreciate the ideas. Again, this is a pandemic. We didn't know what we were up against. So now, again, it's communication. I guess ask for anybody's suggestions. How do we get a team? I'm right now, it's just me and my husband running Live Oak. So we need a team. We need it sooner than later. I believe when everything opens up, we are going to be dealing with a lot of seniors that have anxiety, depression, are nervous to come out. I'd like to see counselors available. I'd like to see, we have San Jose State nursing students that usually come out once a week. They'll come back out. They'll sit and talk one-on-one with our seniors. I have so many ideas how to make this happen, but I need help making it happen.
Well, I would say this is a great platform. We're doing some brainstorming here and everyone's talking to each other. So hopefully we can figure things out.
Thank you. And commissioners, do you have any questions of Kathy?
No, I'd like to make a few comments.
Sure, Commissioner Blum.
Yeah, as you review our goals, you'll see that outreach is a big part of what we intend to do. Outreach toward the seniors in the community so they know who we are and what we do. I mentioned a few things that we're doing to make that happen, including I wrote something that's going to be in Los Gatos Living Magazine and in Outlook, giving talks and so on. We're also developing a flyer that describes our commission and what we do. And we plan on leaving that in, appropriate places like the library, certainly Live Oak. I think it's a good idea to leave it at Los Gatos Commons and reach out to them. I just want you to realize that we're being very proactive about it. But yeah, we certainly welcome more suggestions to make it happen. And I do think that the recruitment and letting seniors know who we are, they kind of go hand in hand. We can accomplish both goals if just doing the outreach every way we can. So I just wanted to put that out there that, yeah, we're really devoting a lot of time and energy to making that kind of thing happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Blum. And Commissioner Norcia?
Yes, I would like to say that I have actually visited Live Oak to do a review for the commission, and I've always been very impressed with it. I would like to also say that for all the years that I have been on the commission, we have received a grant request and we have given a grant money to the Live Oak, and I believe that they do a wonderful job. And I also think our budget has been a little bit lower, and the town has also added money to that. So I hope you are in a grant request.
Thank you. And again, as Councilmember Badami said, is we're hoping to, as Kathy said, we've identified gaps that the pandemic has exposed. And what we're trying to do now is brainstorm so that as we identify these gaps, we can figure out how best to address some of these. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm not going to go into deliberation now, but the next speaker, Nancy Roulette.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, welcome, Nancy.
Thanks so much. Good evening, Town Council, Town Manager, Community and Senior Services Commission. I'm Nancy Roulette, Executive Director of LGS Recreation, and I'm pleased to speak on behalf of the agency this evening. I'll try to keep my comments quick. LGS Recreation has as one of its roles providing senior services that are governed by the lease agreement with the ARC, the Adult Rec Center. And it's important to note that we provide far more service and programming than is required by the agreement. We're pleased to do that. In effect, we really act as a gateway or a resource for our seniors focusing on social bridging, but we recognize there's a lot more that could be offered, a lot more that could be served. And there are significant issues right now with mental health and well-being. It will not come as any surprise to any of you that COVID-19 has had a huge impact on our agency, the entire organization. And at this time, we can no longer come together in person in ways that we have in the past. And we've really creatively pivoted our business to try to conduct online, but it's not a long-term solution for recreation programming, and especially for our seniors. I'll be quite candid. I've got 2 minutes left. The agency is fiscally challenged. We lost $2 million last year at the end of December. We're expected to lose $1.5 million this year. It's the greatest challenge we've ever faced in our 65 years. So that's my focus right now. It's a focus of our board. At present, our agency has one individual delivering programs, senior programs, either staff-led or vendor-based, and he works part-time in order to save and conserve cash. So he's trying to serve roughly 30% of our entire customer base, and it's heartbreaking for us to see an unmet need and not be able to address it. We recognize that our seniors need and deserve more than we can give them right now, especially after a year of shelter in place. We have tried to conduct wellness checks. We're limited by staff. We have a large number of senior volunteers who are willing to provide support, but they've decommitted recently, probably due to health restrictions. We do have a printed communication called The Print. It's a newsletter, but we recognize membership is down from 500 to about 350. And all of the communication is electronic, which is not always the best method of deploying to our seniors. And the business model for other senior services organizations is quite different than Los Gatos. So we recognize it's not enough, but we have competing priorities. So looking at all of this, I think there are ongoing challenges, and I would just encourage the commission and the council to consider ways that senior services may be fragmented, not coordinated, and perhaps prioritize a new way to bring together all groups. How do we create a roadmap to accomplish all of this and to bring together a program that's even more robust and not conducted in disparate pieces? So, our professional goal is to try to create a community center that serves intragenerational members and brings us all together. But I recommend looking for a strategy and an inventory of our services to bring us together to work cohesively with all of our community partners. And I think I'm out of time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us. And if you could stay on the line, we have several questions. Vice Mayor?
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor. Nancy. So you're talking about, I think you were saying the same things that I was thinking about. Our services are disparate, if I can pronounce it correctly. And that's, as you're saying, we need to think of ways to solve that. What role can LGS Rec play in that? And sort of as part of that, you mentioned that 30% are really seniors, but you have one person part-time on that. And during COVID, I can understand, but even before COVID, it was still a small part of what the total LGS Rec did. Should LGS Rec be taking a bigger role somehow? And what can that role be in helping this disparate problem?
Sure. I think to answer the first question, the first thing would be there's an individual or a governing body that needs to create an inventory of what we can offer the community at present and what our long-term goals would be. They're very much aligned with the goals that I can see from the commission, and they're outlined in the attachment for the agenda this evening. So it's a really good starting point. Given the opportunity, we'd be happy to take those and begin to put together a list of how those can be deployed in the community and how the different groups could be brought together to catalyze that change and to serve the community. In terms of what we have to offer, I think the biggest challenge is we're not able to come together in large group cohorts. Right now, it's just such a small group that can come together. And I think the larger issue we have is overcoming a certain community reluctance to come together because there's a perception of a lack of safety. And we recognize that won't change until other conditions are in place, whether it's therapeutics, vaccines, herd immunity, whatever it might be. But I think, we do have other staff members who are typically involved in this endeavor. We have a dedicated recreation coordinator full-time when he's not on furlough. We have a recreation manager who's been with us for more than a decade. I get very involved. I'm extremely involved from an operational perspective for all aspects of our business. And I have a hand in this and routinely am walking through and just noting where people have great need and helping to point them to resources. So it's not for a shortage of staff. I think it's a unique business condition right now that causes us to have to focus on the bottom line. And this is not most of the services we provide for seniors are not fee-based. It's all free services. So we have to balance that against being able to create a sustainability for the organization.
Councilmember Hudis?
Thank you. I have two questions that are probably in very sharp contrast to each other, but I want to ask them anyway. The first one is about the financial situation. Is that correct that LGS Rec is facing a total of 3.5 million loss of revenues through this?
Yes, by the end of the year.
And how does that relate to the total budget, and what was the source of those revenues?
Sure. So the typical budget for LGS Recreation over the last 4 years has been $8.5 million in collections or revenue. And on that, we will typically have a net profit of about $500,000 to $800,000 after non-cash depreciation. Last year in 2020, because our calendar year is our fiscal year, we brought in $3.5 million, a $5 million shortfall. Throughout the year, not knowing when the COVID restrictions would change, we had to pivot our business. We took anywhere from 30 programs to now up to 850 programs online. Most recreation programming is all in person. All of our childcare, which we used to serve over 100 kids at every single childcare site, we're now down to 12 a day. You can't make money. There's no economy of scale that's going on. So that, along with some fixed overhead that we have and our expenses for some of our software programs, our enrollment programs, daycare programs, all of that, we have a nut that we had to serve. And so that's how we went from 8.5 million to 3.5 million in revenue and essentially a $2 million loss. If we're lucky this year and we have a robust summer, we'll still lose between 1.4 and 1.5 million dollars in revenue. And that's it. We're out of cash. Every single one of us has taken a salary rollback. It's been very painful. Every single one of our classified staff member on the ground is on furlough. And most of them, like the individual who's working for senior services, he won't tell you, but he's working far more than 4 hours a day. So we're struggling. And I'm sorry to be so candid, and I wish I could be more positive, but it's the reality we've been living with for the last year.
No, I think we really need to understand that, as LGS Rec is a partner of the town in providing services, and as a partner, we need to figure out how to fix this together. The other question, which is in stark contrast, but I want to ask it anyway, is, has there been work toward really developing a world-class, top-class activities center? The current facilities are really, the community deserves more. And so has there been thought about a real development of a top-class facility?
Thank you for asking. When I first came on board about 4 years ago, we were barely making any profit year over year. In the last 4 years, we've had remarkable years of profitability. The economy has been very robust. We've been really focused on growing programs that best serve the community. And we've done a good job, I think, of surveying the community to say, how do we best meet your needs? At one time, the board had an interest in taking cash reserves that we had and putting it into a capital project to develop a dedicated community center, one that was unique and unduplicated in the South Bay, meaning it had things that you would not find in Sunnyvale, in Cupertino, and Campbell, and the surrounding areas, everything from a warm water therapeutic pool for our seniors to a dedicated amphitheater and a theater for lecture series and the like. My experience in the past had been in property development and also nonprofit management and donor development. And so I was actually hired for that very purpose. We are lucky that we didn't put that money into that endeavor. We would be partway into a capital construction project for which there would not be support by the community. And so although we had opportunities to partner with the school districts that we are formed by as a JPA member, those properties did not materialize in the way that we expected. So we banked those monies as cash reserved. And the idea was to use them for a rainy day, and it's raining. So we're using the money now to sustain the organization. And if I sound grim, it is. I live with the reality of this every day, and we struggle with it. And it's heartbreaking for me because nobody gets into recreation because you want to do anything other than serve the community. I've lived here since 1986. And this is the best job in the community. It's the most important thing that I could possibly do. We love what we do, but we're struggling. It's a struggle. So we'd love to do more. Yes, the answer is we'd love to have a dedicated world-class community center that brings us together intergenerationally, not just with our seniors. By the way, I'm 55 plus, so I understand. I qualify for all those discounts in the membership. But could we do more? Yes. Do we want to do more? Yes, but we're constrained right now. We need to see clear through this pandemic to a time when there's a greater confidence to return in person, and that all of us who are serving seniors come together collaboratively as a resource. It's not just one of us. By linking our arms, we're all going to reach further.
Thank you for your comments. And sometimes the darkest days are the ones when you can develop the most vision. And so I think the time is right for us to think about developing a top-class activity center in town. So thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of Ms. Roulette? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Roulette. Nonprofit world is struggling, and so I hear the grim reality of what you're going through, and I'm in agreement with Commissioner Hudes, that it takes all of us to brainstorm and think how we're going to get through all of this together. So thank you for attending. We're with you in spirit, and hopefully we'll all we will be together soon so that we can figure this out in person, if not virtually sooner.
We look forward to that. Thank you.
Next speaker is Taylor of Sassy.
Hello, Mayor Sayak and Council. I hope everyone's having a nice evening. I just wanted to thank the Council for making seniors a priority at this meeting, and for really empowering and mobilizing your stakeholders to take some decisive actions here. I'd also like to give some praise to the folks who've already spoken tonight, the Senior Care Commission, or the Community and Senior Services Commission, Public Health Commission. The members there have been doing a great job reaching out to other communities to find out best practices and ways that they can be engaged and share resources and learning. They're really taking it seriously, which is what needs to happen. So I want to take my hat off to them. I also would like to just give a shout to Kathy Linerich there at Live Oak Senior Nutrition. She wasn't able to really express all of the things that she's been doing, but she's lifted a lot, and she's reached out to partners, she's done whatever she can, but her asking ways to find new ways to help, I think, was more of a call to have the Council to begin to really think of ways that they can help to find some support, because she's swimming in the deep end. She's keeping her head above water. But we all need a life raft right about now. And so, I just wanted to acknowledge the incredible work that she's done. And also to the service providers group, Tom and Dennis Pickrow, Maureen Heath as well, and Heidi Owens, community members you have there that are advocating and always looking out for ways to support the senior community. I also serve as the chairperson of the Santa Clara County Senior Care Commission. And in that role, I'm able to, really have a good handle on what the rest of the county is doing in terms of age friendly, and how, what makes a distinction between communities that are successful in the efforts that they set out to meet, and then also the communities that have a bit of a struggle. And I wanted to just echo what Heidi said about putting together an ad hoc committee. The communities that have had the best results in getting towards their age-friendly goals have really had buy-in from the Council. And so an ad hoc committee that is a successful one includes a Council member, because you need to be able to understand at the ground level what resources are available. You have the decision-making authority, you have influence with the rest of your Council members, and you're able to see beyond just one meeting on one night, but more into the landscape. And I think in Los Gatos, that would be a tremendous step. And to also include other members of the community, someone from the Senior Services Commission, someone from Los Gatos Rec, someone from case management, and others. I see my time is up, but I definitely am behind the idea of putting together a group that's focused on that could help supplement the Public Health and Senior Services Commission. Thank you very much for your time, and best of luck.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. If you could stay on, you have questions as well. Commissioner Hudes.
Yeah, thank you. And your track record in Saratoga is much to be admired. So
thank you.
I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the sort of the development of the age-friendly plan that then resulted in a big change there. If you could just describe how that process came about, and without going into a lot of details, just what were how did that change come about?
Sure. Well, it started as a Council priority. They wanted to get the age-friendly designation, and so in that effort, they reached out to their senior services provider, which was Sassy, and myself and our board president, along with the Council member, put together a commission of sorts. It was more like a committee, an ad hoc committee that was based on age friendly. And we invited to that group members from the community. We had the board president of the Chamber of Commerce. We had someone from West Valley Community College. We had a member, associate principal from the high school. We had from the Ministerial Association, County Fire, Sheriff's Department, Public Works Department, City Manager. So and we had about 25 people on that committee. And so what we did was we commissioned a study, a survey that was sent out to the community. We sent it out to roughly 1,700 homes of people over the age of 65, got the results from the survey, and used those results to generate our age-friendly action plan. And that process was actually not a very difficult one. I know it sounds like, 25 people, that must have been a headache. But really what we did is we looked at the results of the survey. We asked people to say, hey, how could we fix these areas where we were scored deficient by our community? And we came up with several projects. Those projects, we listed them out, and anyone who wanted to volunteer to work on a project volunteered for that project. And then those small subgroups set to work on working on the projects. And so our plan was informed by the community. It was a statistically valid survey, so we were able to get the results and we could rely on those results. And we moved forward with the support. But again, I have to stress that the council involvement was the key. Without having someone from the council on there, it turns into a situation where it's report being given and it's a little bit of an arm's length distance. So if there is going to be meaningful progress in Los Gatos, which I think everyone there wants it, including the council, I would highly recommend that a council member be involved in that process.
Great, thank you. That really helps.
Thank you.
And Vice Mayor Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor. That's really good, helpful, helping me to kind of answer some of what's in my questions that are in my mind. But I'm still looking for what the recipe is for success. You started to give it to us, and you said, the council got SASE involved, their provider. So I have a feeling that there's a difference in finance that is going to make the difference. We could create an ad hoc committee and we could have a council member listening, but if we don't have the financial commitment towards it, I don't think we're going to have the same successful results. SASE is, so maybe the first question, I'm trying to understand the finances that are needed. I think it's not just providing a council member and an ad hoc committee. Is SASE paid by Saratoga?
Well, the direct answer to that question is yes. But as it pertains to the age-friendly committee, the only expenditure out of all of the projects from that committee that came from the council was a one-time $15,000 grant that was used to commission the community-wide survey. From there, the stakeholders who volunteered for the different projects that were put together were more utilizing the resources that were from the stakeholder group. And those groups pooled their resources together in order to make some of those projects get off the ground. For instance, one of them was an accessibility waiver for homebound seniors that needed to make improvements, and they wanted to streamline the permitting process in the city manager's department. So that didn't take any money. That just took identifying a need and a problem and talking to the right people and putting together a plan. Another thing is the beauty of having that and having those programs identified as such is that the council has the flexibility to pick and choose which projects that it wants to work on. And the committee itself can tailor those projects. If you're in a place where there's not a lot of money on the table for these type of projects, then you tailor projects that maybe are conducted through a nonprofit that can fundraise on its own for that project. Or maybe the community college has some funds somewhere that they could provide for a project. So it's more of a utilization of the resources as opposed to saying, okay, town, we came up with 25 of these things and we want money for all of those. Otherwise, you're not doing your job.
Yeah, and I definitely get that, and I see how that can work. I'm still thinking about how much money does it take to keep that synergy going, right? Once there was a $15,000 grant to do this study, then things kept moving. Somebody kept kept it organized and kept everybody talking together. And was that a sassy member that was paid by Saratoga?
Well, Saratoga, so in terms of the finances, Saratoga, the way our arrangement is with them is we get in-kind use of the senior center space that we inhabit. And we also get about $70,000 a year in cash grants. Our total operating budget is 1.2 million, so it's really not much. It doesn't pay the bill, so to speak, but it is a contribution to the senior services provider to make sure that we have a seat at the table. We also have a city council member on our board of directors as well, and the city manager or their designee is also a non-voting member of our board. So there is definitely a much deeper tie-in with the senior service provider in Saratoga than what exists in Los Gatos. However, in terms of keeping that momentum going, you already have elements in your town that are meeting regularly without payment from the town council. For instance, the Los Gatos Service Providers Group, the commission there. I don't want to assign anybody any work they didn't volunteer for. But there are groups existing there. And SASE, as you've heard tonight from other people, we've stayed involved in the town. We are there helping, and we did receive a $5,000 grant, and we committed to making sure that any money that we received from the town, we would invest into the town and activities to support the town. And so, we still consider ourselves a partner, even though we don't have a formal arrangement with the town. You are in our service area. We do deliver the Outlook to several hundred homes in Los Gatos. We'd like to expand that if possible in the next year. So we do want to help with improving the level of communication that the seniors in the town receive about resources and information available. And we also can play a role in helping the group to kind of stay focused and to keep going. So I don't think it would take a new structure or a new agreement to make that happen. I just think it would take the interested parties and just kind of some coordination to get it going.
So thank you for all the numbers and all the explanation. And I think what I heard is it still takes a little bit of paid professionals through a grant or something to keep the whole thing moving. It can't just kind of happen with volunteers kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think that works in any scenario. I don't think anything happens without a little bit of money being put forward, at least if you're going to take it seriously. And if you want to have accountability, there has to be a dollar sign attached somewhere, but it doesn't need to break the bank. It doesn't need to be exorbitant. But if you want to have oversight, if you want to have results that you can hold someone accountable for, then sure, the old adage is you get what you pay for.
Thank you, Tyler. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions of Mr. Taylor? Okay. Thank you, Tyler, for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Any other speakers that would like to speak? Catherine?
Good evening, Mayor and council men and women. I'm actually really overwhelmed by this session tonight, and I'm so excited by what I'm hearing and about all the people who've come out to speak on behalf of the seniors. I have to give first kudos to the commission. I have to say, the work that you're doing behind the scenes and what you're looking into is really inspiring and impressive, and you've certainly shed light on some of the things we need to do in this town. Kathy Malarnich is a hero, and she did not even was not even able to express the amount of work that she has done during this pandemic. I've recently also met with Nancy Roulette at the rec center, and what she is trying to do is really hard to do because she does not have the support that she needs for many reasons. Tyler Taylor, what he's doing over in Saratoga and what he has offered to us is absolutely amazing. So what I'm challenging you with tonight is something that Commissioner Blum brought up, is that it does require, and actually Vice Mayor Rennie alluded to this, it's resources or it's figuring out how to reallocate the resources that we have. And I think that's the challenge to the council right now, is to look really holistically at everything that we do have, because we have a lot of services. It's just that they're very fragmented and we have not been able to figure out how to put them all together. And I think we're at the start, and maybe it is an ad hoc committee or a roadmap or, different ways of starting now to get ultimately where we want to be. And the bummer is that where we want to be, we might not even be alive to see that when we get to that point. But I think it's really worth a start. And I think our taxpayers, our residents, everybody wants that here in Los Gatos. And I think we're a town that can figure out how to get there. So I really applaud all the people who spoke tonight. It was really great to hear this. And I think we're all rallying around a common goal. And I think we can get there, council members, if you lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Any questions? Seeing none. Anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, see no other attendees that have their hand raised. I'm going to close the public testimony, and I'm going to go back to the council and commission. First off, I'm going to start with any questions of one another. And then I'm going to ask people to reflect a little bit, and a lot of information has been shared. And the goal of tonight was to, one, recognize what has been accomplished, recognize we are in a difficult situation, but to open the lines of communication so that we can figure out what it is that we want to do next and how do we do it so that it's realistic and it's something that we can do within the next 2 years, given our timelines and our resources. So I don't feel like everyone has to solve the problems tonight, because I want us to be thoughtful and reflect on what we've heard and figure out a way forward. I'd like for us to really use the brain power in our commission. And tomorrow I'll work with town manager to figure out how we harness what we've heard and work with the commissions to continue this dialogue. But I would like to hear any reflections from people so that we can make sure we're capturing what we need to capture so that this conversation can continue. And I go to Councilmember Hughes.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I think the goals that have been presented by the commission tonight, I completely support, and I think that it's a great starting point. I think that the breadth of responsibility for the CHSC is extraordinary, and so I think it would be a challenge to say we need you to do much more to solve some issues. As we've engaged with the senior community in town, it's clear that the population has grown. It's now roughly 30% of our voters, and probably a similar percentage of our population, maybe a little bit smaller. But at the same time, the services have frankly decreased during COVID and have become more fragmented, and there is a greater lack of coordination at the same time. So these two trends are working against each other. So in discussing some specific ideas with Chair Rossman that he brought up, it seems as though it's time to do a bit of a reset, and a reset that goes beyond the work that the commission is doing. Reaching out to many seniors, discussing this with 200 more seniors through surveys and other sessions, an extensive discussion that I had at the morning Rotary earlier this week. discussions with the chamber, and other service providers, I want to try to summarize 4 goals that I think could help us achieve the objective that we've now established in our strategic objectives. One of them I'm going to start with is an urgency item. And I think that all of what we're talking about will be less important if we don't solve this. And that is to assist our seniors and our 60+ community with getting vaccinated. There's a good track record of getting over 60% of the 65-year-old plus folks vaccinated, but the remaining group is much more difficult to reach through the internet. So I think as a town, we need to help solve that problem. And that doesn't mean that the town is going to by itself take on this, but I think the town needs a plan to help our seniors get registered and get placed for vaccines as an urgency item. The other 3 items I think are coming directly from this conversation. The number 2 item I think is to enhance our services for 60+ residents by engaging an activated community organization. And number 2, aspiring and developing a vision for a top-class activity center for our 60+ residents. I think we need to set that goal. It's going to take a while to get there. There are a lot of ways of doing that, a lot of ways of funding it. But I think it's important that we develop a vision to have a world-class or top-class activities center serving our residents. I think the other thing, the third thing I think we need to do is to help organize the seniors that want to volunteer, that want to be a service force. Yes, we've got service clubs, but it's fragmented. Many of them haven't figured out how to engage. And even speaking with some of the clubs, they haven't quite figured this out. I think there is something that we could do to provide a clearinghouse of opportunities and to do outreach to our seniors to engage them as a service force in town. And then finally, the fourth thing that I think, and I've heard this addressed in a number of ways tonight, is to develop a roadmap using an ad hoc committee, much as we did with wildfire, but this job's a little bigger, I think, to develop a clear way of satisfying that goal that we put out there. We put this strategic goal out there, but we don't have a roadmap for how we can really make a difference on it. So I think what we need to do is along the lines of what Mr. Taylor described, and that is to identify and prioritize the needs in town and the solutions and the possible service providers and service sources. Look at the role of the rec department in satisfying that, but also evaluate other possible solutions. We need to, in this roadmap, eliminate fragmented services, develop some coalitions of regional and community service for mutual benefit, and adequately fund sustainable 60+ community services. So for each of these services that the town prioritizes, figure out a way to fund them. And to put that together in a clear roadmap. I think that this can be done quickly through an engaged community. I think that we should establish a goal of 3 months to develop the roadmap through intensive community engagement, a month for the council to decide and to be engaged in the decision process, and 2 months of community communication. So we've heard, a lot of this from a number of the folks, former Commissioner Pickrow, in terms of developing this this plan, and also the center, Chair Rossman, Commissioner Bloom, Ms. Owens, have all, I think, put in pieces of this, but I think it comes together in a roadmap effort that describes how we're going to get there, how we're really going to fundamentally address the needs and take advantage of the capabilities of our senior community. So those are thoughts, four goals that I would propose for discussion.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. So maybe first, in terms of the goals, I asked questions before trying to understand how they related to what immediately was discussed, and understand that better. My first thought is, as we come out of the pandemic, the commission could help monitor kind of the reboot of the services, because a lot of them are operating in ways that they didn't. For the Live Oak Nutrition is delivering meals instead of providing a social atmosphere, and the 55 plus program at the rec centers mostly not doing anything, and so there's a reboot that's going to occur. So your goal 3, where you're capitalizing on the relationships with your providers and monitoring them and so forth. So I think that's going to be important for the commission to look at and get some feedback back to the council about how is that reboot occurring as we come out of the pandemic. In terms of Matthew's goals, I have concerns on the first one. A week ago, I saw a chart where Los Gatos 65 plus, 80% of them had already been vaccinated, but the average of the county was 55%. So I feel a little embarrassed that the wealthy members of Los Gatos have run out and grabbed all the vaccines, and we're not getting maybe some of the communities of concern across the county vaccinated. So I wouldn't want to push that harder and make it, there's a limited number of vaccine, there's a limited number of people that can stick needles. I think we should make sure that we're getting a fair distribution across the county before we try to take even more of our share. So I have a lot of concern about that first item. I agree on, I'd like to see us improve the community center, and that's dollars, and it is a longer term thing, but if we agree and we start working towards it and thinking about fundraising and so forth, it will happen hopefully at some point in the future. And the last one he was talking about organizing, it's been for at least 4 years now, I've been talking to people in Los Gatos, certainly since I was mayor, and it was one of my focuses was senior services and the senior programs. There's a lot of people in Los Gatos that would love to volunteer and get involved, but we've not been able to create that synergy that could put them all to work, like Saratoga has been able to do. So that model that Tyler described, those kinds of people exist in Los Gatos, and we could do the same thing, but we haven't found the recipe to pull it all together. People have used disparate, people have used fragmented services, and Tyler described it as actually not very expensive to put a little cash in to the right people that can help this process go forward. A $15,000 grant is actually pretty small compared to our budget. Our budget's 40 plus million a year, and even if we were spending 70,000 a year supporting SASE to help us, for example, keep these things moving, I think is quite small investment. So I would like us to consider thinking about the model that clearly was successful in Los Gatos for organizing and pulling all of this together. I just feel like the keep doing the way we didn't work and will not work in the future. Isn't that the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and expecting a different result? So those are my thoughts.
Vice Mayor. Councilmember Risto.
Thank you. I'm still in the thinking phase, and so I'm not ready to propose a whole list of what we should do. I think we've taken in a lot of information tonight. I think, the discouraging thing, the thing that we all know is COVID has had a massive impact on nonprofits. It's had an isolation impact on young people and seniors. I mean, our seniors are very vulnerable to isolation, but we also know that our youth are suffering. So we've got a lot of community needs right now. I think we've had really great input from our speakers, and a lot of good is going on. We have some great services. We have some really heroic volunteers who are doing good work. And so my thought is, as we're coming out of COVID, I kind of am going to be right in between the vice mayor and Commissioner Hudes. I don't think that Los Gatos has taken an unfair share of vaccines. I think that we have a community where a lot of people have insurance, a lot of people have access, perhaps people to help them sign up. But our seniors are actually doing much better than other communities in terms of getting vaccinated. So I think we're on a good path to seeing our way out of the worst of this pandemic by the summer, health-wise, and being able to gather. But financially, I think our nonprofits are going to have a lot of trouble moving forward. And so I think it's going to take a lot of thought to decide where we put our money. I'm not opposed to a long-term view of not just a senior center, but a complete community center in Los Gatos, but that's not, in my mind, anywhere in the next 2-year purview. So I think that's a long-term goal. I think less of what the facility looks like and more of what happens in it. People gathering, people being together, having programs that provide that socialization is the important part. I would love to hear from this commission about how you take this input and what do you think you can incorporate from this, or how you think it would be best to pull together the information you've gotten and what you think you need from the town council. Thank you.
Council member? And I'm not sure, Council Member Badami, if you're also, as Council Member Risto and I are in the thinking phase, if you'd like to share anything at this point.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of letting the commission digest everything that we talked about tonight and coming back with some of the ideas or how things can be accomplished, because I don't know how we can accomplish all these things, especially with budget concerns. How do you pull it together? We already have other commissions where we have vacancies and we have to keep reposting because you can't get enough people, seniors aside, to even commit to volunteer. Another concern I have with the elderly community is that you might see permanent behavioral changes, where you become more germophobic because they're the age group that has experienced more death. So if you build it, will they come? I don't know. But I like the idea of an ad hoc committee as well. So those are the two pluses I have right now, is letting the commission digest this, coming back to us, what they took from tonight, what can they accomplish, how can we help get there, and I also like the consideration of an ad hoc committee as well.
So I'd like to comment on goal 1.
Sure.
Because we were chartered to both think about senior services, as Rob and Matthew talked about, but a key element in goal 1 was public health issues. Our mayor is dealing with that at CASI, and she's described interacting with the students, interacting with the parents. Some of the town council members have pointed out how isolation has affected the mental health of so many seniors. So we've tried to reach out to the healthcare providers, which is a big thing in the Los Gatos service providers. Next Door Solutions, West Valley Community Services, how do we engage them? How do we make them pay attention to the demands of the residents of Los Gatos? Other communities like Los Altos and Campbell have hired case managers. Case managers are the kinds of people that Cassie uses to deal with behavioral and mental health issues. And Jeff has a particular interest in domestic abuse and substance abuse. These are things that many years ago with CASA, we dealt with in Los Gatos. And we put an enormous amount of investment in dealing with these problems. Right now, a lot of this discussion is about senior services and programs and SASE. I feel that we have to, as a commission, either recognize that we're going to do something on behalf of the issues surrounding public health, or we're just going to concentrate on the public health issues that are associated with our senior community and go off and explore new enhanced 60+ services.
So,
Thank you, Chair. And Commissioner Blum?
yeah. If there's to be an ad hoc committee, I think the idea of just devoting that to one thing, and I like the idea of a senior center, a really classy place, or a community center, should be what the ad hoc committee looks at, because that in and of itself is a big project, a major project, something that has been indicated couldn't be done overnight. Certainly, it's a long-term project. I'm also concerned with the idea of having an ad hoc committee that kind of treads on our territory, as a commission, and getting to Council Member Rennie's point, you can have disparate committees addressing, or commissions or groups addressing issues, and you can get lost in the weeds and not get anything accomplished. So I think it's really important to just have a focused group that is concentrating on things. And so I am concerned about that issue as well. And I think we need to be careful about that, about having yet another group out there addressing some of the same issues that we're supposed to be addressing, and coming up with policies that may be different from what we have, and just creating confusion rather than light. So beyond that, I do think, as a number of other people have indicated, I need to reflect some more and figure out where we go from here. But those were my initial thoughts.
Thank you. And so I'll share a couple of thoughts as well, and I'll just follow first on what Commissioner Blum said. I was thinking the same thing about creating another separate committee, and actually was thinking the opposite of, and I was going to talk to Town Manager Pravetti about this tomorrow. Instead of creating a separate ad hoc committee, my thought was if I could find 2 council members that I could actually place on your committee, and let's augment the work that you're already doing. I like the idea of using existing resources and looking how we can make them stronger and help support it. I do understand that in front of you is a large umbrella, community health, as well as senior services. First, I want to commend the commission, because working in many regional areas, when you do take on a project, you do it well. I know that your grant making and the streamlining that you've done is touted now among other cities as how to make it easier and less stressful, especially for nonprofits. You don't want to spend more time applying for the grant than actually receiving those funds. And so again, those are areas that I've heard broadly. I know you're very active in the service providers group, and I know that is unique to our city as well. And I'd like to see how we can, again, not create a separate avenue, but strengthen what's already in existence. I'd also love to understand better what county services are available and how do we as city council or town council members tap into that so that we are using the resources, again, that are happening at a county level that we pay into more effectively. I don't think these are answers that we need. There are no answers immediately today. I think I would certainly like to take some time to reflect on what we've heard and thank all those that participated, including yourselves. I don't intend this to be a one-time. We've crossed it off the list and we're moving on. I hope this is the beginning of a conversation. As we've heard, there are a lot of serious issues. And I think that our collective minds on this Zoom can address these issues if we really put some time and some energy and some serious thought into it. So that's where I'm at. And what I'd like to do is ask staff to also give some thought, and perhaps at your next commission meeting, we develop more of what are some of the concrete steps. But I will share feedback with council members on how at least the next couple of meetings will go and how we're going to incorporate the information we've received tonight. And also just to give you an idea that as we go through all of our commissions, this really is the purpose of beginning these conversations. How do we utilize our resources more effectively? And if it does require a reset, let's do a reset. But I'd love to engage the commissions in that conversation so that we're working from the same page. Okay, any last minute comments on that? I see Commissioner Conrad, and then I'm going to go to Assistant Town Manager Andrews. And Mr. Conrad, you're on mute still.
I like the idea of letting the commission come back with how do we want to proceed. And I just suggest that we put a time frame on that. While this is a hot topic, we might as well say we want to do it quickly. And maybe it involves more meetings of the commission than we currently have.
Absolutely. And I defer to you and Mr. Andrews to figure out, I don't want to say when you should meet. So Chair Rossman, if you can work that out with town staff. And Mr. Andrews?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say, having been the liaison to the commission for the last 4 years, just how much I've learned from all these commissioners and just what an honor it's been being affiliated with this commission and these folks, past and present. So thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate everything you do and being a part of your commission.
Absolutely. And Town Manager Pravetti, do you have any final words before we adjourn?
Thank you. And again, thank you to our commissioners for your volunteer and your enthusiasm for Los Gatos. Thank you to the other participants and attendees who provided really good dialogue with our council this evening. And thank you also to the council. I'll certainly follow up with you tomorrow, Mayor, on some next steps. And then in addition, really look forward to having the Community Health and Senior Services Commission digest the ideas that came forward. And perhaps as a tangible next step, we look at maybe putting together a work plan, kind of take the goals that you've set forth, and then with some of the specific ideas that came out tonight, maybe slot them into a work plan, maybe it's going to be not just a 1-year work plan, maybe it's something that's going to take a couple of years. But I think if we organize the ideas that we've heard tonight, and then I would work with the mayor, and when you're ready, we'd be happy to bring that back to council. So that way they can see how you've digested this and what your recommendations are and where there might be opportunities for partnership with some of the service providers, as well as communication linkages. I think that was another big theme tonight, was how do we really strengthen our communication networks so that way we can really reach our seniors. So A lot of great ideas this evening, and thank you very much to the commission for giving us a framework of the goals to start with. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you again, commissioners. Thank you, council, for the thoughtful discussion today. It's certainly given me lots to think about to carry forward in our next 2 weeks. So, meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.